What's up, guys? Farooqi Bros here, back with another podcast. And today, for you guys, we're going to be talking about all the big films that are coming out for Thanksgiving weekend. Obviously, this is one of the biggest box office weekends for domestic, films. And I think there's no doubt about it. The competition is pretty thick coming into this week with Gladiator facing off against Wicked, and what some people are calling like almost like a mini Barbenheimer, but with both movies doing really well at the box office. But there's also a bunch of award category movies that are also coming in and out during this time heading into the holidays, of course, trying to make their stamp before award season, which is coming up very soon. So we're going to talk about the whole wide spectrum of these movies between the big blockbusters and the smaller award films that I think you guys should keep an eye on. So let's get right into it. Let's talk about what is the box office king or queen, in this case, and that's Wicked Part 1. So Wicked, this is a movie that a lot of people have been very interested in. Obviously, it has a pretty star-studded cast, and it's based on a very, very, popular play from the 2000s that's still going on today, and it's based on The Wizard of Oz, which is considered one of cinema's greatest achievements. I think it was one of the first 10 or 12 colored movies that ever came out, like in that first, at least the first decade of color. It was in that, so it just changed the way films are made. And to this day, I mean, you can look at scenes from The Wizard of Oz and be like, how did they do that? In 1939 or 38, to keep me honest in the year, I think it's 39. So now we get to Wicked Part 1. I mean, a lot of people have tried to kind of cash cow this franchise, and the question is, does Wicked and director John Chu, do they take this to the point where it's great? And I think I will go first with my thoughts. And it's interesting because when I think about this movie, I can't help but think about leading up to it, what I was thinking, and that's what the trailers. And for me, I got to be honest, every single trailer of this movie, I found myself not liking it and aggressively actually disliking it. The more I saw of it, I'm like, you know what, this movie looks bland, it looks soulless, it doesn't look great at all. And that's what's surprising, because when I actually came out of the film, I actually quite enjoyed it. I think it hits all the right notes, pun intended. I think the songs were great. I think there were a couple of original songs in there too, but the songs that are from the main Wicked play, I think they did a great job translating that to the big screen. I think Cynthia Erivo, hopefully I'm saying that last name correctly, and Ariana Grande both were really good in this movie. I think they put that film on their backs. And when it comes to Ariana's case, who I don't think is that strong of an actress generally, I think they really pulled the best performance out of her in this movie. And I'm not gonna lie, color grading and lighting, there's still issues like this. It's still a problem. I think it's not. This movie could have definitely been a little more color graded better. And I'll give one quick example. There's a scene where the song Popular is playing, and it's like the main song for Glinda, Ariana Grande's character. And there's a point where the colors get just a little more saturated and it feels a lot more magical. And I thought to myself that why wasn't the entire movie color graded? Maybe not this intense, but at least a little close to this level, because the rest of the movie has a bit of a gray wash that you sometimes see in MCU movies, which, is a problem. But honestly, the production design was so strong. The set pieces were so great in this movie that it almost counterbalanced it. And it created a pretty immersive film overall. So I do think it's a great adaptation of the musical. Now, it's funny because the musical itself is only about 2.5 hours long, but only part 1 of this movie is 2.5 hours long. So you could give, some people might be like, hey, it's a little over long for breaking up a musical that's only 2 hours into basically 4 hours of movie, assuming the second part's going to be similar. So that's one thing. In terms of the score I gave it, I'm sitting at 4 out of 5. It's not in my top 10, but just falling out of it. And I do think box office wise, it has a bit of that Barbie momentum to it. So I do think a lot of people are into it. I see a lot of people in like fan culture and pop culture are like talking about it a lot. So I do think this film is gonna make a lot of money. But I think it's overall strong, and I'm actually quite interested in seeing how it plays out going forward. Zian, what do you think?
I pretty much have the same agreements with what the good things were, what some of the things were that held the movie back. Like you said, going in with the trailers, it really is very misleading of kind of what type of movie this is. I think it did a good job kind of having a certain level of emotional weight to it, and not just being just fun and sparkles and whatever. I think that the runtime, I know that was also something that, it feels like it might be too long, but when you're watching it, it actually keeps you engaged, which was a pleasant surprise, because when I was sitting here, I was like, I don't know how I'm going to sit through 2 hours and 40 minutes of this, but it really just keeps you going, and you don't feel the runtime too much, which is obviously a testament to the film. And I think with some of the gripes, like you said, sometimes it does feel very color washed, but I think the moments where the colors do pop, like that final sequence, or with Emerald City, it looks actually very nice, and it kind of feeds into the emotion of the scene as well. So I think that was the one that kind of shows that if that was kind of prevalent to the rest of the movie, it would have looked better. But hopefully, maybe if they're not done with the post in the second one, they can just finish that off. I don't know if they film both of them exact same time or not. But yeah, so maybe if they want to go back and post and try to change it now, not likely, but we'll see. But I think, yeah, the performances, they kind of really did carry it. Cynthia Erivo, she really was just the emotional crux of the movie, and she delivered very well on that, both with her acting and her singing performances. And Ariana Grande is Glinda. She obviously did a good job kind of portraying that kind of cloud, head in the clouds type character where, she's kind of into herself. And I know the original Wizard of Oz, she wasn't kind of like this, but I like that this is the direction it took with the play and like the book is based off of, to kind of create these two characters in a certain way. I know back then, before I saw the movie, I was like, oh, Wicked, she's like obviously a villain because of the original movie, and she's always portrayed as just a complete villain. But now, after seeing this movie, I don't mind the direction they're adapting that they took for her to go and things of that nature. But yeah, overall, it's a strong movie. I do think sometimes, though, aside from the set pieces and stuff, which are done well when they were physically done, it felt sometimes like, oh, they're standing in front of a screen when it's like the close shots, which that kind of felt a little off. I think maybe that's part of the reason why some of it was like desaturated, so they can fit like they're standing in the same place. They're standing in those areas and not feeling like a screen. But overall, I think it was solid when it was physical set pieces and like the choreography for the songs and the dances, whether it's stuff they took from the play or new stuff. I thought it was done well. So overall, strong, better than I thought it would be. So good on them.
Yeah, we didn't talk much about narrative and kind of what we thought about the story, because all of it is just straight up a remake, not a remake, but it's an adaptation of something. But I always thought it was funny, like just you're recontextualizing it. I don't want to bring up the canon here, like what is canon Wizard of Oz? That'll be like maybe too much of a deep cut. But I always thought it was very funny, like Wicked Witch of the West, like she's like, famously like one of the biggest villains of cinema, and when she's melting, it's like a big heroic moment. But when you look back and actually, I thought just for morbid curiosity, I'm gonna rewatch The Wizard of Oz yesterday, and I was gonna just watch the beginning scene. And it's like, whoa, what's the context we're seeing this in? Because really, the movie starts with the Wicked Witch telling Glinda that, yo, my sister is dead, and her shoes, I just want her shoes. And they're like, you know what? I gave it to Dorothy. I'm like, just give the shoes back. Like, it's such a basic thing. So I thought it was very funny, because the shoes obviously are in this movie as well.
Yeah.
The copyright thing, just give me a reason why it's not the ruby red shoes that everyone knows, is because those red shoes are copyrighted by, I think, MGM Studios. So only if they make a Wizard of Oz movies, they can use the red shoes.
I think I was seeing online, they all said that in the book or whatever, they were silver.
It was always silver, yeah.
Silver, yeah.
When the movie was coming out in the 30s, they really wanted to show off color, and I thought making it red, honestly, that was a great choice by that film, because now it's just iconic, like the red shoes. Here it almost becomes like, if you don't know the lore, it was like, oh, it looks like Cinderella's shoes. But every time you see Nessa, the sister, and you're like, oh yeah, I know what the end game is there, and whose shoes those are. But it's just interesting to see. And then all the other characters, like, where everyone's going. It's just now a matter of like, how are you gonna build it? So I think Jonathan Bailey is pretty good. I think the song he plays flows well to what character he is in Wizard of Oz. And then same thing with the other guy, forgot his name, but the guy who was Nessa's person, who he is in the Wizard of Oz, also is like it works well. So like, so I hope part 2, which in the play, I don't want to spoil too much the play, but in the play they cover through the Wizard of Oz. So we're going to be seeing, it's not all prequel. The second part's going to like overlay, right? So we're going to see kind of the whole story play out again through, what's her name? Yeah, Alphaba's like point of view. So it's always good when a movie kind of gets people thinking about origins of cinema and kind of going back into those old movies. So if a movie like Wicked gets people going back to that movie, I think that's actually the really ultimate end goal, and it's going to be good for cinema in general. In terms of this movie, yeah, it's doing well at the box office. I almost feel bad for Gladiator, which we're going to discuss in a minute, but I feel like they should have maybe moved a weekend, because while both are doing well, it was never going to beat this, beat Wicked. But yeah, overall, let's see how it goes. And Samir, when you get a chance, maybe by next week you'll give your thoughts on it as well. But because we are in like, what are people calling it? Glicked? Well, what's this weekend called? I don't know. But if we're in Glicked weekend, Gladiator 2, I want to revisit it because we did review it last week, but I want to kind of touch base on it again and see, has our thoughts changed a bit? Are we still on it as we were last time? It's getting a lot of divisive attention. A lot of people are debating if Paul Mescal is even the right fit, and there's been a debate about that, and there's been all these different things going on, how it sits compared to Gladiator 1, which some people think it didn't deserve Best Picture. It won Best Picture, right? Yeah. So some people say it didn't deserve Best Picture compared to whatever the other movie was coming out that year. Ridley Scott, will he beat the editing allegations? I don't know, but this is like the thing that kind of flows into this side. So it's Gladiator 2. Samir, I'm going to start with you to give your thoughts on the film. What did you think about the sequel?
I thought it was pretty good. I thought it was pretty entertaining. I mean, I didn't go in with too high of expectations. I think I didn't think it was going to be something like how Dune was this year. I thought it was just going to be all right, and I think it did its job. As far as like the spectacle aspect of it goes, I think it's very entertaining. I think that's where the first one kind of suffered, like you said, the editing aspect of all the action scenes. I thought the action scenes in this one were done very well. And I'm a huge fan of Paul Mescal. I think he does his job in this, but of course Russell Crowe has the sauce. You know, he doesn't kind of live up to that that Maximus in the first one, but I like that he's basically like another Maximus in this one. That's Lucius's story, even though the similarities to the first film are kind of undeniable. I wish it wasn't as similar as it was. But I do like the direction they went in towards the end. Obviously, they're going to make like a Gladiator 3 for sure after this one. But I think the true standout of this film was Denzel. He carried every scene. I think he stole every scene that he was in throughout the whole movie. He was like the star of the film. I think overall it was pretty good. Yeah, just pretty good.
It's interesting because I want to touch on Denzel because I also agree. And there was an interesting review on the movie that said that if you took Denzel out, that it kind of falls apart. That you needed someone of his star power to run that scene, and it's a little different than Joaquin Phoenix's role in Gladiator 1, which is also very undeniably important and it kind of fits very well with Russell Crowe's character. Whereas here, I feel like Denzel, he's outshining his star, even though I love Paul Mescal also, where I feel like Joaquin and Russell Crowe, they were almost like beat for beat. They were staying in each other's class the whole time. And I don't know if in Revisit or if you're thinking any different, but I feel like, did it actually hurt the film that Denzel was like kind of leaps and bounds ahead of everyone else from an acting level?
I don't think it hurt the film. I think it actually helped the film because whether it's obviously like you said, Gladiator, they kind of they're neck for neck. They're kind of like both important and the performances are both great. But in this film, I feel like Paul Mescal, I'm not as sold on him as maybe you guys are. I think he's good, but I think it was good that Denzel as this like middle tier ambiguous villain, really like the antagonist of the film, carried it because, you know, that's fine. I don't mind if the antagonist is the one that kind of carries the film through and the protagonist is kind of just there following in his footsteps. I think it's fine because they were hand in hand the whole movie narratively, like until the end where they split off. But I think that's why where it felt that way because they shared so many scenes where maybe if it was more separate, we wouldn't feel that disparity of, oh yeah, Denzel's like outshining and outclassing everybody, which he was. Obviously, he was the best actor in the film. But I think that it didn't really hurt the film too much that he kind of stole the show, in my opinion. I thought it actually helped him.
I want to touch on Paul Mescal one more time, Samir, with you, because you've been a fan of him since I think After Sun, right? Or even before maybe. But some people have critiqued that, you know, like this movie kind of sells the new Gladiator as like, oh, he is vicious and, you know, controlled by anger. But a lot of times this guy seems like the nicest guy in the movie. Like he's nice to everyone. He's like very soft and gentle. And outside of him ripping the monkey's ear off, like he's been pretty chill. I don't know if that was a writing thing or maybe Paul Mescal's acting direction on how he wanted to take the role. But it felt like he wasn't as intense as Russell Crowe. But I don't know if that's what you preferred. Like, you think that from a protagonist point of view, were you satisfied with that main role?
I don't really see the vicious aspect of it. I feel like, if anything, yeah, I feel like what you said. If anything, he's nicer than every character. I mean, he he shows mercy in a lot of the scenes, especially with Pedro Pascal, right? I think just because the action scenes are done a lot better than they were in the first one, and they were a lot more outlandish, a lot more choreography than the first one. I think the editing in the first one was just so bad that it seems like, it seems a little different, but I think the bar is just set too high for him, for Paul Mescal, since Russell Crowe is that good of an actor, and obviously Denzel is like one of the greatest actors alive, right? So I think he did his job, and I like this character a lot.
Yeah, I'm also excited to see what we do with Gladiator 3. I heard they're currently writing it. I'm not sure if it's Ridley's next project, but it maybe has a project coming up between where he releases it. Well, let's see. And there's also talks about, as per normal with Ridley Scott, like I have a 4-hour cut, and he said like I have another cut of this movie that has like everything and no one's cut out and everyone's in it, and I don't know, like I never saw Napoleon's 4-hour cut, and I kind of don't want to, but maybe we'll revisit Gladiator's 4-hour cut. I don't know. So let's see how that works out.
That's just dumb, because unless the sequel follows the canon of the extended cut with the characters that were cut out, don't even release it. Then that's stupid.
Yeah.
Release it after the next one as a package. Then here's the director's vision for the second dude. Even though it was his choice to keep it his vision.
Yeah, I think the third one should be like more of a king's tale. Like he's going to become a prince, or and how that's going to work. I'm not sure where the gladiator part's going to be in the third movie. Like who's going to be the fighter now? Is it still him? But I don't know. We'll see. So let's move from Gladiator to the courtroom, because I have a courtroom drama coming from Clint Eastwood in what could be his final directed film. And I hope there's more, but I think this is pretty much considered his final one. And controversy aside, because a lot of people are very angry that this movie did not get a full theatrical release, and it kind of got it had a limited release, but it mostly got kind of pushed into the corner of, here you go, a Max original. That's what it's even called in the poster. It's HBO Max. Well, now it's called just Max original movie, which some people feel like that should not be where his final movie should be. And it greatly hurt this movie's chances to have any kind of award appeal. But we'll still debate it, and we'll still review it. So let's get right into it. And maybe Ziana, I want to go to you first, like if you have your thoughts ready on Juror too quick. But what did you think about this movie?
I thought it was pretty good. I think I was the only one from us who saw it actually in theaters. So yeah, it's a shame how limited it was. Even here in New York City, where you expect that there'd be a lot of screenings available, it was only available in one theater, the whole city. So it's like they're making it really hard to watch this movie. So you really had to, anybody who was interested had to go out of their way to see it, which is unfortunate, because I think it was a solid film. It is a courtroom drama through and through, like in every sense of the word. I think it's very kind of 12 Angry Men inspired, but more modern, as more like interesting. There's like an interesting twist in obviously the narrative with the character. I forgot his name, but where he killed the person who they're on trial about, and then obviously the falsely accused boyfriend. He knows he's innocent, but does he come forward with it? His wife is pregnant, all that stuff. So it adds an extra narrative layer of intrigue that keeps you engaged of what is he going to do, what moral stance is he going to take. And I'm a big fan of all courtroom drama films. Primal Fear was great. Even Presumed Innocent, which is Apple TV show, I enjoyed that. So just like this, Juror number 2, I thought it was done well. For for Clint Eastwood's supposed last film, I thought it was just an interesting kind of reflection on real life courtroom and real life society, where you take how proceedings go with the jury and how they go with eyewitness accounts and things of that nature, and how in real life even they're kind of not that reliable, but people's whole lives and things can get affected by the decisions that are made in the courtroom. And I think that this film kind of highlighted that well. I get the complaints. I know you guys brought some complaints of it being kind of a lot of stereotypical jury, like different selections, but I thought that was fine. I didn't think that was a big deal, because there wasn't too much focus on them. They're kind of just there to push things along, but really just about the main character and kind of the struggle he was having internally. And I think Nicholas Hoult did a great job in his performance, kind of showcasing that internal struggle. Overall, I thought it was solid. I gave it a 4 out of 5, and I enjoyed it. But I'm partial to this type of courtroom drama or courtroom film, so it's just my type of thing.
Yeah, I'll go next, and I'm not as high on it as you. I end up sitting on, I think, 3.5. So we're in the same realm, just a little. Not, I don't think it's a 4 for me. And the reasons I like it are similar to what you said. I mean, it's this concept of morality, and I think the movie itself is fairly generic. And I understand this is a 93-year-old man, so from a directing standpoint, a lot of it is your simple shot structures, very basics of cinema. So you're not doing anything experimental from a filmmaking standpoint. But I think that one question mark from a writing standpoint is what makes you intrigued, which is like, what would you do? Who wouldn't make that decision? Who would, the moral, ethical dilemma of like, hey, if would you sacrifice everything to do what's right? And if everything means your life, your future kid, I mean, it's pretty generic, like family man with pregnant wife, like you make it as obvious as you can. This is a very difficult decision. And then you're allowed to ponder throughout the movie. And in my case, it maybe runs 15, 20 minutes too long. I feel a lot of it is like where you're going through the meandering of the case details, knowing the end already because he did it. Then it becomes like, well, as a viewer, what are you supposed to be doing while they're talking about this courtroom drama? Are you supposed to concentrate on him and you already know the ending? Or are you supposed to, or just say, oh, keep pondering, what would I do? What would I do? What would I do if I was Nicholas Holt's character? I forgot his name too. But what would I do as Nicholas Holt's character? And I feel like he did a good job as like this kind of plain Jane face, John Doe. He's almost like someone that you can project yourself onto and call it a day. But in that case, he did really good. And I think this one scene, he's with the prosecutor, I think this was the best scene in the movie. It was the end of the movie. I don't want to spoil the exact final twist in case someone hasn't seen it because this movie's not getting a lot of love, so I'm going to keep it open-ended. But this scene with the prosecutor, I feel like where the entire crescendo comes, and that final scene just makes the whole movie come together. I don't think it's in a top 10 of 2024 for me at least, but it's a solid movie. I don't think it's going to be in the award circuit either, but I think for Clint Eastwood's final movie, potentially, I'm going to give that man his flowers for his achievements in cinema, both as an actor, as a director, and then good stuff for Juror number 2. I think it's solid. Samir, what about you?
I think my views align pretty much with yours. I thought it was an interesting, engaging watch, like the moral and ethical dilemma that they present. I thought it was interesting, but as far as courtroom dramas go, I think a lot of times the mystery aspect of it makes them a lot more, I guess, engaging to watch with. Like, for example, Anatomy of a Fall came out last year, and I feel like just because the ambiguity of it, I feel like that's what made it so interesting. That's what made it so captivating. I still think this one it's okay. I don't like that some of the supporting characters, like some of the side characters, are just generic caricatures of whoever they're like. There's an old woman, and there's a black guy, and there's a stoner, and I kind of don't like that. That kind of takes me out of it. I wish there was a little bit more nuance there. And the ending, I know you don't want to get into it, but I feel like it was kind of a cop out where they kind of cover the bases. They kind of do both, which I don't know if that's a spoiler or not, but I thought it was okay for the most part.
Yeah, I'm there too, pretty much. But you know what? It's the guy's last movie. We'll give him his credit. It's not easy to direct, especially at that age. So, but overall, yeah, solid. I mean, yeah, solid. All right, so let's go from there. I have a quick solo review I want to give. I want to talk about the movie Maria. This is an Angelina Jolie vehicle, very much carried by her through and through. And this picture came out in less than zero quality, and that's unfortunate. But basically, the film talks about Maria Callas, who is like one of the greatest opera singers of the 20th century, and it's part of. I gotta search the guy's name because the director's name, because it's killing me now. I have to get this down pat. Pablo Larraín, right? And this is his third movie in what's considered almost like a trilogy of female focused films. So he directed Jackie in 2016, which focused on Jackie Kennedy, and then he did Spencer, which was on Princess Diana, and then the final movie of his trilogy is Maria, which is about Maria Callas. And funny enough, there's a through line. They all take place in roughly the same time, and there's a character that's from Jackie that's very influential to Maria. This is all public knowledge, but the second after John F. Kennedy died, the second husband that Jackie Kennedy took was Mr. Onassis, like a very big rich guy. And it turns out, in real life, Onassis had Maria Callas as one of his mistresses. So how she kind of jumped in the movie and how they kind of how Jackie Kennedy kind of flows in and out. I think they did a really good job with that and kind of setting this tragic figure up. But basically, the premise of the film is very simple. It talks about her last week of her life, and she's been given like a terminal diagnosis. So now she has to, what would this character do who knows the end is coming, and she is desperately clinging on to her fame and what made her who she was. In this case, I think Angelina Jolie is absolutely wonderful. I think she did a great job. She really loses herself in the role, and I think in a different year, I would say it would be she would have a good chance to kind of even be in the running for a nomination, and she might very well get a nomination. But I think in the big scheme of things, I think she's not going to win this year. But I do think a lot of credit has to go for her to how she built this role, how she kind of learned to sing. A lot of it, the songs. I was in a Q&A with her and the director, and they explained how, well, a lot of the times she's singing is actually Maria's voice because that's a one-on-one voice, but they did mix in Angelina's own singing voice in the middle of it, which allowed to give it this kind of more realistic tone. So overall, I think it was pretty good. I mean, this movie, I also gave it 3.5. So it's very similar to Juror number 2, but the difference is from a filmmaking perspective, this is way better. From a shot perspective, from a cinematography perspective, and from a production design perspective, even costume design, all really good. But my biggest gripe with the movie is that it feels so long. Like this movie's only clocks in about 2 hours and 15 minutes, but I'm telling you, it felt like 4 hours. Like it's very slow. It's a lot of standing shots where it's like you just have to think, like no words, just you're just watching her stand, and it's like okay, and that might last like 2-3 minutes. But I guess that's the point, to get very immersive. But for me, I did find myself getting a little bored, and I found myself, looking at the Apple Watch a couple of times, like what time is it? So for that sense, like I felt like, are you keeping me engaged? Unfortunately, not. But it's such eye candy to look at that I still have to give it 3 out of 5 because it's just 3.5 out of 5 because it just fits all the principles of cinema. But yeah, that's basically my thoughts on Maria. One more film I want to revisit Anora. This is a movie that myself and Samir did not get a chance to fully review. I know Ziani saw it in theaters when it came out first week, I think. But this is a film that was doing really well in the film festival circuit. I think whether it's at Cannes or at Venice, one of the two. But it either won an award or was nominated definitely for the awards. I don't know exactly what its win total is, but everyone's been talking about it. It's going to be a popular awards pick coming up for the American award shows, coming up as well. So I want to talk about Anora for a second, but because I just did a whole Maria review, I'm going to give my voice a rest. Let Samir jump for it first. So what did you think about Anora?
I think it was decent. I think I had sort of a good time with it. But I don't really see what everyone else is seeing. I don't understand the hype around it. I really don't understand why it won the Palme d'Or. I feel like it does its job in the entertaining aspect of it. Like I feel like I'm pretty sure that's what it's intended to do. It's just supposed to be solely for entertainment. And people are seeing it as sort of a very like the substance of the film is very progressive, which I don't see at all. I feel like if anything, it's kind of counteractive. I think when you're trying to make a film where it's just supposed to be superficial entertainment, I feel like you kind of fall into the stereotypes that are fairly negative, and I think a lot of the film is very explicit, and they don't try to hide that at all. They're very upfront about it. You're kind of drowned in the imagery of it. But when it comes to these characters, sort of their personhood, their actual substance, I feel like you can only make assumptions based off of like context clues, and those context clues happen to be negative and negatively influence that sort of lifestyle. So it's like, of course, Anora's character is supposed to be naive because she engages in this lifestyle. Of course, she's supposed to be easily manipulated, I guess, because she engages in this lifestyle. And I feel like that's kind of where it missed its mark for me. And I really don't see how people are seeing it in a positive light when it comes to that aspect of it. But as far as the entertainment aspect of it goes, I think it does its job for what it's trying to be. It's just supposed to be like you're supposed to view this character and the whatever is happening in her life, and I feel like that's entertainment. That's entertaining. I like the cat and mouse chase aspect of it, but as far as substance goes, I think it's sort of problematic, and I don't like it all that much.
Yeah, I'm somewhat similar in the viewpoint. I liked it even less than you, to be honest. And I want to preface my upcoming statements by saying that I'm not a woman, so I'm not going to give you like, hey, I know what it means to, or especially in this style of work and what that looks like and what counts as feminism, what doesn't. So I don't want to be like preach to the choir and be like, hey, this is not feminism. But for me, I did not see, and I can speak to my wife's point as well, who watched it with me. But I didn't. We none of us saw a sense of feminist through line where it's like this is an empowering film for women, or that women are handled well on screen. It is a little exploitative, which I can understand. You could say, well, this whole lifestyle is exploitative, so the film should also be exploitative, and you're almost reaping what you sow, and you're supposed to punish the viewer almost in a way, and you're punishing the characters. But this is a similar problem I have with Substance, but Substance is better in this movie, in my opinion, from how it did its like through line. But I do feel like, at what point do you punish the main character enough where you're no longer making a point anymore, and you're more just being like, haha, this is funny. And at some point, and part of it is a comedy, and I agree with me. Like, is this a comedy? Is this a drama? A lot of it is a comedy. A lot of it's, haha, this is funny. The cat and mouse is funny. Her getting tied up and they're making jokes and she's screaming. That's supposed to be, I guess, funny. I don't think it's funny. I was not laughing. I thought it was kind of weird. But I kind of get it. And a lot of people are saying, oh, this is their favorite movie of the year. A lot of people putting 5 stars on Letterboxd. Is doing very well in the film festival circuit. But for me, I just did not connect with this movie at all. And I feel like even from an acting perspective, I found myself, and Zan, you did it already in your last review, but I found myself also equally annoyed by the characters. Like, I was just not, the whole kind of annoying to me. I'm like, the more they talk, the more I'm getting annoyed. And I'm like, honestly, it's not even Anora, the actress. She's quite strong. It's more even the guy, like, I don't know who's actor is. I don't like anything's going on. Like, these guys are saying crazy stuff. And it's just like, we gotta find him, we gotta find Milos, or like where his name is, and they gotta keep looking for him, and I'm like, I'm like, you can look for him, but and it's like it's a little tedious for me. It's a tedious watch, and there was a time where a movie like this could have been a clean 90 minutes, and the fact that it just drags into that 2-hour range, and I'm like, what are you doing? Like, what are you doing? And the end of the movie, I gotta be honest, I don't want to I don't want to talk about it anyways, but I was honestly feeling insulted or anything. I'll just be like, I felt insulted as a viewer. I'm like, why is this happening? And whatever reasoning you could bring up, like, this is her only way to know what it means to thank someone. I can hear it. Give me all the answers. I can understand them, write them in a book, and be like, okay. But for me, it just didn't work. It's not translating. It's not cooperating. It's not comprehending. And for me, it's a 2.5. And that's being nice. That's me being nice. I can go lower by the end of the year. So for me, 2.5. And honestly, if you give it 3, I forgot what your score was. But
I give it a 3.5. I think there are some redeeming qualities. I like the acting from the main girl, Mikey Madison.
Yeah.
I think she was great. As far as everyone else goes, from an acting point, I feel like they did their job. I don't like the kid. I don't like the guy. He's super annoying, but I guess that's what he's supposed to be, right?
Yeah.
But yeah.
I just you got too generic by the end. It's like, oh, here comes them on the plane, and then the mom is just like, of course, overbearing. I thought they're gonna twist that he's underage or something. I don't know what they're trying to pull. I'm like, I don't know what's going on, but whatever it is, it is. But Zion, I mean, we were revisiting it. It's been a couple weeks for you as well. Are you still sitting it where you were? I forgot what your score even was, but are you still?
I gave it 3.5, but reflecting on it, I think I might bring it down to 3. I think, like you said, one, the characters are all just so annoying. As a viewer, I don't feel bad for any of them. Like, they're all just kind of trashy people. And, she does go through a lot. Like, you made a good point that all she does is suffer the entire film right to the end. Like, that's all you're watching. That all the choices she made, in the end, she just suffers completely. And the guy, that he just gets off scot-free and goes to his parents. He's still rich. He still lives his life. So it's like, what was even the thesis of the film? I don't know. But at least, what was it, 2 hours, maybe an hour and 15 minutes? They're looking for Vanya the whole time, and it's so boring. So boring. I'm telling you, it's hard time keeping my eyes open because there was no stakes. It felt like there was no stakes because the people who had her, all they do is just joking around and laughing and like for the audience, So it's like, why am I supposed to feel like there's stakes, against Anora? Like, I felt no danger for her, even though I felt like they wanted to feel that way, but it didn't feel that way because they kept just joking around and having a good time. So it's like it just felt very weird to me, and I didn't care for any of the characters or any of their plights. So it's like, yeah, these are decisions you made, so this is what happens.
Then come to the dark side. I mean, with all the negatives, you're still sitting in a.
No, I brought it down to 3. I think 3 is fine because her performance is good.
Is 3 considered satisfactory? 3 is like you did enough to pass. You passed the exam.
Yeah, 3 is
For me,
you just passed. 2.5 is like
you just failed.
You just failed.
Just like the right under the passing mark. You got a D on the exam. For me, that's what it is.
I don't know how you don't like the cat and mouse aspect of it. That's like the best part, in my opinion. I feel like because that's the most entertaining part where they're just like generic goons, and they're just running around.
But then what's the movie then?
I was like, any minute that could have been like, oh, it's the bat, and then Batman coming down,
It's the freaking bat.
It's the bat. It was just too generic. It was too boring. There's no stakes.
Well, the cat and mouse are repetitive. It's more like, oh, where is he? Call him. Oh, you can't call him? Okay, smash the store. Now repeat that 6 times.
That's what I'm saying. It was so long. Like 65% of the movie was just that. It was so boring.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, no, this girl got just like taken for a ride. I mean, like in the end, they didn't pay her money. Like they didn't give her the 10,000. I don't even know. But there you go, Anora. I mean, based on our review, I don't think it's going to be in my. I mean, I don't know. I haven't done my female top 5 yet for Best Actress. I know she's going to be on pretty much every single person's, at least in the top 5 for Best Actress. I'm struggling.
I don't think she was bad. She did good with
the
material she was given with like what she had to do.
Just because you did the best with your material doesn't mean that you get a nomination. But I'll openly admit I'm part of the minority here. Most people tend to really like it. So let's see how it goes in the award cycle. I'm not sure it's going to get one of my votes, but it is what it is. So from there, let's get to our final topic, which is our what to watch, the Farooqi Bros recommendations. Are any of us even prepared for something like this? And maybe we're not, but let's see if we can pull something out of the hat. Maybe I'll go first. For me, I'm going to recommend Pokemon Emerald. I recommend this game from the old days. That's what I'm recommending. And the reason I'm recommending it is because the state of Pokemon right now is, I would say, in a low point. Like, I don't know why. I just feel like the last few games, I don't know if you guys have a favorite this last generation, but Gen 10 of Pokemon for me is just like not that strong, to be honest. And I revisited now some of the older games, and I got to be honest, there was something kind of like, and maybe call me an old head, call me the unk, but I'm thinking the old days of Pokemon is kind of where it peaked. I'm like, and I don't know what's missing, but something's wrong in the sauce. Like there's something just different between a Pokemon Emerald and Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. And I can't catch what it is. Maybe it's now legendaries have become too common and them giving it to you right away, or the fact that the last 3-4 years of Pokemon, we've been given Gen 4 legendaries every single time. So now I'm sick of Gen 4 in general now. So it's like, how many times am I going to keep catching the same people? I feel like my last point before I pass it to you guys, while I recommend everyone check out Pokemon, my message to the Pokemon company and Game Freak is that if you're going to make a new Pokemon game, make legendaries feel like legendaries. They should not be given to you till late game. And when you do get them, it should be very difficult. It shouldn't be a story mode thing where you automatically get the Pokeball and you got them. Let it be very difficult to catch it. And even worse, make it so you can't catch it. If you kill it by mistake, that's on you. I want to be that level.
That's how it used to be. That's how it used to be.
But now you're
good. That's it. You got to reload the save.
Yeah, but now Sword and Shield, you're given to it. This you're given to it. You're just given the Pokemon. Here it is. Take it. And Scarlet and Violet is probably the most egregious. And number 2, and most importantly, I know there's a big event coming up where they give you everyone a shiny Rayquaza. I'll be there. But I would say starting next gen, stop putting every single legendary back into the game. I think they need to stop doing that because every time they do it, everyone's going to have a collection of like 20 Mewtwo's, 20 Rayquazas, 20 this, 20 that. You got to stop. Pump the brakes. Pick like 3 or 4 legendaries from back in the day and say, here, this game you can find them. Make it feel good again. I think they've over-commodified it.
Their mistake was their whole garbage raid system, which obviously you picked it from Pokemon Go and you added it into main game. That ruined everything. Because like you said, back in the day in Emeralds, like Latios is in a random grass patch or Suicune is in one area and you have to go there with a bike. You can't fast travel. You have to actually work for it and then you get lucky when it starts fizzing and okay, it's him, that's like when Pokemon was at its peak, but now they just don't have it. I'm telling you.
Smear, are we all old heads, or do you agree with us that they don't have it anymore?
I agree that they don't have it, but I still need all the legendaries, so I'll take them.
But how many times? Like, the point I'm making is that look, just the three of us alone, we played Diamond and Pearl remake, which means we had a chance to get every single legendary from the cave system, right? That they gave everyone a chance to get it.
Listen. We don't all have the facilities to pay for Pokemon Home. Okay, I need it in every game. I need a new version. That's where I'm sitting at right now.
See, I forgot about that, but you still should have put every single. You should let every game have every legendary. Like I still say, pump the brakes, let it be once in a while. Like okay, the next game comes out, whenever it comes out, maybe give us. Okay, you can have Lugia, and you can have someone maybe. Yveltal or something. Like give us like a little mix. But if you give us everything every time, look, it's not where it's at. Now that being said, I'll be there for the Shiny Rayquaza. So that's my recommendation. Question is, what are your recommendations? So Ziana, we'll go you next. What do you recommend?
Recommendation? I don't know.
No games, nothing.
I guess I'll recommend, which is a very hard, not accessible game, but it's Batman Arkham Shadow. It's a new Batman game in the Arkham games trilogy, I guess, following I forgot it was before following the events of Arkham Origins. It's a very interesting story of the Rat King and kind of Batman kind of being taken down. It's an interesting story. You can play it on Quest if you have VR. I think I did a surprisingly good job. You feel the haptic feedback when you're punching, and you really feel like Batman. You can like pick a batarang and throw it and grapple. They do a very good job creating that immersion. I feel like the levels could have been a little better. It feels like you're just in like the dungeon, like Arkham looking brownish gray colors, and that's kind of annoying. But I think just being Batman, kind of fighting all the enemies, they did a good job making it rewarding but not too difficult, where you're like sweating bullets by the end of it. So I think it is fun where you can, you counter and you punch and you do takedowns. They added all those kind of stuff from the Arkham games into this, where you actually physically do it, and it was done actually very well way. So if you have Quest, I think that definitely is a game to get. Do not miss out on that. Very fun and immersive Batman experience.
Is it in canon? I forgot. Is it actually canon part of the story?
It is canon part of the story. Yeah.
Before Arkham Asylum and between.
Before Arkham Asylum, after Origins.
Yeah, and what I know we're past Kevin Conroy's time as Batman, but did Roger Craig Smith? He's good, right?
Yeah, he reprised his role for Mark.
I saw one clip where they showed back to back the exact same line, and it's pretty good. Like It's not exactly that, but it's a nod to it. Samir, it's your turn.
Oh yeah. Okay. I guess I'll stay with the Paul Mescal thing, and I'll just recommend After Sun, which I wasn't that high on when it came out, but now I think it's pretty good. And the ending sequence is probably one of the best scenes in recent memory, I think. Yeah, pretty good.
What's it called again? Normal People?
After Sun.
Oh, After Sun. We just talked about that, yeah.
Yeah.
Was he in Normal People too?
He was in Normal People.
Did you just see that? I saw it in your letter, but I thought you were going to bring that up.
I recommended.
All you can say about it that he was in Normal People. That's it.
I recommended Normal People last week or something.
Oh, okay.
Because I wasn't done it. But now that I'm done it, I don't see the hype. I don't get why people like it all that much. It wasn't all that compelling for me, and it wasn't that sad even. But I guess maybe check it out. I don't know.
Let me ask his opinion, because Ridley Scott said in an interview that was the movie that convinced him to cast Paul Mescal in Gladiator 2. And before, Timothée Chalamet was the guy they were thinking.
I don't think he does anything. I don't think he's good. He's a good actor, but in Normal People, he does very little. I think. I mean, he does a lot of emotional, sad scenes, which I don't think translated to Gladiator at all. Really,
he was sad.
He had like two emotional scenes, but for Gladiator, you're supposed to be like this really confident guy, right? Like you're supposed to have aura, which he doesn't have in Normal People. So I don't see why that would be the reason.
Would you say Timothée Chalamet instead?
Timothée Chalamet, he's just not. He's skinny, He doesn't have.
Apparently, he was considered. Though. I think he was considered.
One monkey was taking part.
Listen, I saw someone on Twitter. I don't know. Obviously, this is a joke. It was such a funny tweet. I don't know who wrote it, but it was like, "Oh, they should have put Henry Cavill as the Gladiator." So I'm like, would you want Henry Cavill to be the Gladiator?
You know what the problem was with Gladiator? he didn't have a mask. He needed he needed a mask. That's the problem.
Because
That's
in the
true.
modern
Mask,
movie making days, they never wear masks anymore. It's the same. It's a superhero thing. You know, like you have to take the mask as much as possible in Marvel. Like Iron Man can never wear a mask anymore because you have to show Robert Downey Jr. as a character. That thing.
It's true, but Paul Mescal's not like an S tier actor. I think he's
But
he's
they,
like an up and coming actor, but
well, they
he
want
should
him
have
to.
had a mask. He played the same exact storyline. He might as well have a mask too.
It's true. At least wear his dad's mask. He wore his dad's stuff, like the armor.
Or his armor and the sword. Yeah, he took his armor and sword.
That's pretty good. Yeah. I want to put in one more last thing. The score of that movie, it one thing back, something good. Like it just comparing to Hans Zimmer's original score, and whenever they do use that score, it's just so good. And I'm like, wait a minute, it's a big quality jump difference.
The first one, it's just Pirates of the Caribbean, but it's pretty good.
It's not just Pirates of the Caribbean. It was pre-Pirates of the Caribbean. So
Exactly.
you could say Pirates of the Caribbean is Gladiator. And yes, he's straight up reused.
Except
He's
it's better.
straight up reused stuff. That's crazy. The fact that back can get away with that, like there's parts of Pirates of the Caribbean that has the exact same score as Gladiator. Like word for word, bar for bar. All right, but what did you guys think about Gladiator 2, Wicked Part 1, and all the movies talked about? Let us know in the comments below and join the debate from myself, from Zayan, and from Samir. We're the Farooqi Bros, and we'll see you next time.